Hello and welcome to the Ant-Man channel. It is Tuesday, the 8th of April, 2014, and I'm your host, Ant-Man. As always, I got surprised by an article right now that came into my inbox as I'm about to go and do pretty much my homework and stuff like that. I'm not really, you know what I mean? But I found this as a shock because what is going on between conservative Christians in our circle? What are we talking about these days? Well, it has to do with where is the point in which you are participating in someone's sin? Because of all of the religious liberty that's under attack, there are people that don't agree with baking a cake for people who are gay that are going to get married. So, how do we figure out what we do in these situations? Well, it looks like nowadays Christians are going to have to know that it's okay to do business with people in the world, but it's never okay to go against your conscience. Like the great Martin Luther said, it is neither right, ignoring your conscience is neither right or safe, because it is in which the Lord uses, it is a mechanism in which the Lord uses for us to know right and wrong. We are moral creatures. That's what separates us from dogs and, whatever evolutionists teach you today, to think that you are the product of a monkey and a pig having sex. That is the you mean at what point do you think that you're being degraded? At what point do you get offended by what humanists believe? You know what I mean? The total. I mean, where is the dignity of the human spirit in this world these days? So, anyways, supreme serious about gay suits versus Christians. This is not what our First Amendment allows people to do. What I always call what's going on these days. Well, by the way, this is by Greg Corambos. It's as if the gays are being used as a gay majority tyranny, a tyranny in which is sold through what the public school teaches you about what our government is about, and it's not really what it is about. They teach you that our government is about democracy, when it's not. Our government is a republic, and there's a difference between democracy and republic because we have a constitution that we're supposed to follow. What I've been studying and what I hate studying, by the way, is progressive ideology coming from the late 20th and early 21st century, from presidents like FDR and stuff like that, and Woodrow Wilson and the guy that thought of the Great Society, Lyndon B. Johnson, who was quoted to say that I'll have these N words voting Democratic for the next 200 years. This is all built by design. These people, they trained you to interpret the Constitution wrong, not correctly. So now we have people interpreting everything in our time that we're living in relatively. Everything's based on relativity. Whatever is true to you is true to you and not necessarily true for me. This is the postmodern philosophy, if you will, that everybody lives by. Whatever's true for you, bro, is true for you, but whatever is true for me, you know what I mean, doesn't have to be true for you. And this is moral relativism. And the great Albert Einstein said that relativity only applies to physics and not ethics, which is a brilliant statement by the great Albert Einstein, because it's true. Truth is an eternal thing. It doesn't evolve. It doesn't evolve like the secular scientists try to claim that organisms evolve. Like, truth doesn't evolve. Truth has always been the same. And if Jesus Christ had a like a card, if he gave you a card and he had his own little catchphrase on there, it would be the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That is the great truth about the truth, is that it never changes. But anyways, let's get into this article. The U.S. Supreme Court Monday refused to hear the appeal of a New Mexico photographer sued by a lesbian couple after she refused to take pictures at their commitment ceremony because of her religious convictions. The case centered on Elaine and Jonathan Huguin and their business, Elaine Photography. In 2006, they refused to work at the commitment ceremony of Vanessa Wilcock and Misty Collinsworth. The lesbian couple was able to find another photographer, but still filed a discrimination grievance against Elaine Photography with the New Mexico Human Rights Commission. The Huguins lost at every level of the court fight, and on Monday that defeat became final. Attorney Jordan Lawrence of the Alliance Freedom Defending Freedom, or ADF, represented Elaine Photography in the case. He said the court's decision not to hear the case is disappointing, but he sees a silver lining. This is not the same thing as the court summarily affirming the decision below. All that means is that the Supreme Court decided not to hear the case. They did mull this over for 3 extra times at their conference, which is encouraging in a slight way that it means the justices took this case seriously, gave it a lot of extra consideration, but decided ultimately not to hear the case, Lawrence said. There will be other cases coming through the pipeline. Alliance Defending Freedom already has some in the pipeline. The cake baker in Colorado, the florist in Washington State, he said. This does not set a nationwide precedent, and whether people can be forced to create expression that they don't agree with or be punished by the government, that is still a general constitutional principle that ADF will be enforcing and arguing in courts around the land. There's videos here if you want to see this. It's WD.com, Supreme Serious About Gay Suits versus Christians. And if you're like me, you believe in agendas that are hidden from the public, and that is what's really going on here. I don't beat around the bush and play politics with anybody. I know the truth, and I'm going to say it. And that's how everybody should be. They are openly admitting things that they were disclosing back in the days before the internet was such a big thing. People know things that the government has tried to keep under, you know what I mean, under wraps for a long time now. Everything's out in the open, even in the public, even in the mainstream media, they admit things. And it's so very obvious, the corruption of the people that they want you to vote for too, like Hillary Clinton. You know what I mean? They want you to vote for her when she's the one responsible for ambassadors being killed in Syria, because they were trying to get rid of people who will be able to talk, because what they were doing over there was probably illegal. They were, you know what I mean? And I don't say probably because I see that there's a slight possibility in which they were not attempting to do something that wasn't right to the American people, but they were. They were over there, and they're dealing guns and all these kinds of things to people who are our mortal enemies. People that want to kill us. I mean, it's different if you're living in Indonesia or if you're living in India, Turkey, Ethiopia, Mali. All these places are very hostile towards the Christian faith, and I can understand that some places are very hard to exercise religious liberty because they're not constitutional republics like ours is. But if you're stupid and you want to live in fairy tale land where you're watching award ceremonies every weekend, then you're going to believe that you're just supposed to be stupid, worship authority, and follow orders just like everyone else. And this way, you're not free. You're not free, my friend. The court never offers an explanation for refusing to hear a case, and Lawrence said he cannot be certain why his clients won't be hearing at the highest court in the land. However, he said the court's history suggests it's waiting for the issue to get bigger before wading into his aspect of the debate over the proper definition of marriage. Oh yeah, not that God didn't institute that as something holy, but I mean, it even says in the Bible, even to this day, people are married and given in marriage, and they just go on continuing to think that that it's all been doing the same thing since the beginning of time. We've all been doing the same thing, same traditions, all this, perpetually. But marriage is a holy thing, and it should be sanctified. It should be set apart and treated as something holy, not something that the secularists should be able to, you know what I mean, capture and take over and say that they can apply their own principles to something that did not come from their worldview or anything in history. You know what I mean? Like, where do we get marriage? It goes so back that nobody will be able to answer that without somebody being informed about the Bible. You'll be like, oh, well, marriage was given to Adam and Eve. And ever since that time, it's always happened. But people who don't know anything about the Bible, they'll just say, well, I don't know. Marriage has been what it's always been, and that's what our people have always done. And in tribes and in indigenous places, they've had people, you know what I mean? And you know, they'll have an explanation for this, but it's all based on speculation, not truth, not an established truth of doctrine. It's just speculation. So, okay, they do have a general habit of waiting for an issue to percolate in the lower courts and not necessarily take the first one, but take the third or the fourth one or something like that, he declared. Or he said, those who support redefining marriage to include same-sex couples may take the wrong signal from this and be emboldened to punish more employers or professionals or small business owners or graduate students or others for their views that marriage is only for one man and one woman. As W&D reported, similar cases are the legal pipeline and could reach the U.S. Supreme Court. So Lawrence admits court decisions all across America have trended in favor of same-sex marriage and similar causes in recent months, he said. Regardless of how the nation may be trending on the larger issue of marriage, the rights of his clients and others to hold their beliefs should be an issue all Americans respect. But no, nobody really cares about these things. So we, I mean, what does it always say in the Bible about when it's always directing or commanding or trying to show you a precept of God's ways? It's talking to you who believe, because only you are the ones that hear this. So apply it accordingly. You should care, because if you don't, you're not using your voice, and everybody just gets to take over what you have. I mean, it's the oldest, you know what I mean, quote in the book, dude. I mean, those that do not know history are doomed to repeat it. Why? Because it's the same thing over and over again. This is exactly how every government becomes despotic, every single one, and they use plays out of old dictators' playbooks. Like if you went back and studied Nazi Germany, you would see a lot of stuff that's very similar to the way people do things now, and they all have the same ideologies. They all believe in evolution. They're all into like Catholic and Kabbalahism and stuff like that. It's all coming from the same source. So we know that this kind of stuff has an evil spirit behind it. It's not just human beings' imaginations coming together to make this stuff happen. I believe that this is all out of control, that they're all out of balance with each other, and they're all battling each other for power anyway. So this is on a larger scale than you and I know. We live like these really pretty much peaceful lives, man. But I mean, behind the scenes, like in Washington, they're fighting all the time. They're fighting for, you know, what bills that get passed or whatever, and what we're gonna do next and all that. And it's just it's a mess. Well, that's all you can really say about it. It's a real big mess in Washington. But that is how we delegate. That is how we find out what the people want. But if you know better than, you know, the average yuppie, you know that they don't really care what you want. So you need to make it heard. You need to make your voice heard. You need to project what you believe. Because in the time we're living in a time where people are not allowed because of what is, always regurgitated. And you're not allowed to express what you believe in and your convictions and all these. And you're supposed to leave people alone. Leave them alone. Oh, they just want to be left alone. Well, if I didn't care about you, I'd leave you alone. But since I care about you, I'm after you now. And I'm going to teach you something, whether you don't respect me or not. Because that's just who I am, man. I just got to do it anyway because I'm grateful to God. He gave me a new life, and I live for Him. So I and many other Americans believe that the best public policy and social values to promote and maximize human flourishing is to define marriage as one man and one woman. Obviously, there is a growing number of people that disagree with that. But what I hope we all as Americans can agree on is that people should not be censored or punished or held up to public humiliation for having a view that is not supported by this new ascending orthodoxy, said Lawrence, who also fears a very slippery slope in the wake of the frustrations endured by his clients and other business leaders who express support for traditional marriage. Well, everything traditional is under attack. The traditional woman is under attack. The traditional male is under attack. Like, I'm not supposed to be manly. I'm supposed to be a chump who lets everybody treat me like I'm stupid. And that's how males act these days. They let everyone push them around, and women push them around too. And women, being a traditional woman that takes care of her family and cleans and does all these honorable things, that's looked down upon by all the feminists nowadays. Like, they hate marriage, they hate males, they hate all these things. And it's like, you understand that the passion behind this whole thing is corrupt in its essence, because whatever it is that is prescribed to us in our gender should come naturally. It shouldn't come because somebody is forcing you to believe in something that doesn't come natural to you. But then again, that seems like a complete contradiction to what I believe, because God tells me to do the opposite of what my flesh wants me to do. But that's a discipline, and that's a knowledge of knowing what the situation we're in is all about. That's different. But when you have corrupt ideas about what something has been established to be, and you want to totally contradict that establishment, that is corruption. Because we know that it is unintelligible to go completely contradictory to what something has been already established to be as it is, and it works. If it didn't work, it'd be like, okay, well, you can fix it, but if it ain't broke, you don't fix it, right? So the establishment and the institution of marriage, it worked fine by itself, but since all of the culture is under attack, and we're all supposed to be government worshiping, gangbanger. It's all ridiculous. But if you want to come read this by yourself, I didn't read like four more, you know, paragraphs. But you guys get the gist here. You guys get that religious liberties are under attack, and as Christians have to become bold. Take the words out of Mark 4, where it says that when you do preach the gospel because you have to, like that's just you doing your duty. But if you do it willingly, if you do it intentionally, then you have a reward for that. And you guys should pursue that. Run the race like the one who wants the prize at the end. We fight for an eternal crown, and that should motivate us with a passion like what Christ had when he died on the cross, to go out and to tell people that this is the real way. This is the reality of our existence. And we have the power. God made our minds powerful, man. He made us powerful, full of love, and gave us a sound mind to be powerful. So all that fear, all of that worrying, man, it's of the world, and you gotta resist that stuff. It clouds your entire perception of what is real and what's not. But God bless you and have a good day.